Trump is once again making his hiring decisions based on Fox News and has brought on frequent Fox guest Scott Atlas to his coronavirus team. Atlas doesn't have any background in epidemiology or infectious diseases because, of course, and is so extreme that he's freaking out Trump administration officials with his herd immunity push. Which shouldn't be surprising. All Trump does is watch Fox News all day, and this is the kind of argument, these arguments, that Atlas was pushing on Fox News.
The fact is, the overwhelming majority of these cases are younger, healthier people. These people do not have a significant problem. They do not have the serious complications. They do not die. And so it's fantastic news that we have a lot of cases, but we don't see deaths going up. And what that means is that A, we're doing a better job protecting the vulnerable. B, we're in good shape here.
By now, I think we all know that the prolonged lockdown is severely harmful to our country. In fact, it's killing people. This has really got to end. And we know the president here has a strategic and appropriate policy, which is protecting the vulnerable. We know who's at risk here. It's not everybody. It's not about all the cases that's the most important metric. It's about saving lives by protecting the vulnerable, by preventing hospital overcrowding, which we are really doing well, and by opening the economy, opening the schools, because American lives are being destroyed. And this is true, by the way, all over the world. Even the UK and other countries are recognizing the lockdown must end. This is really an inappropriate use of policy here, and by now we should have learned that.
Okay, no. We end lockdown measures when we aren't seeing almost 300,000 new coronavirus cases per week, over 6 million in the United States since the pandemic began. I mean, it's just absolute insanity driven by greed and wish fulfillment. Trump wants things to go back to normal, so this guy is telling him what he wants to hear, and so then he brings him onto his team. Sign of a strong mind, by the way. Many estimates say that if we were to do a herd immunity strategy in the United States, we would kill over 2 million people. Over 2 million people! And this is what's being considered and starting to potentially be implemented in the Trump administration. So you can't just isolate at-risk people. We've already gone over this. There's too many ways that things can slip through the cracks, obviously, every day. I mean, if you're at risk, you may not know that you're diabetic. You may not know that you're at risk. In addition to the fact that, yeah, we can't just make old people and people who are at risk isolate and remove them from society. It's a sick way to view things. And there are also doubts about how long immunity lasts. So it's insane on top of insane on top of insane. And experts are sounding the alarm. Even Trump administration officials are like, this guy is pretty nuts. One of President Trump's top medical advisors is urging the White House to embrace a controversial herd immunity strategy to combat the pandemic, which would entail allowing the coronavirus to spread through most of the population to quickly build resistance to the virus while taking steps to protect those in nursing homes and other vulnerable populations, according to 5 people familiar with the discussions. Well, what if they have to interact with people and they're asymptomatic? Ugh. The administration has already begun to implement some policies along these lines, according to current and former officials, as well as experts, particularly with regard to testing. The approach's chief proponent is Scott Atlas, a neuroradiologist from Stanford's conservative Hoover Institution, who joined the White House earlier this month as a pandemic advisor. He has advocated that the United States adopt the model Sweden has used to respond to the virus outbreak, according to these officials, which relies on lifting restrictions so the healthy can build up immunity to the disease rather than limiting social and business interactions to prevent the virus from spreading. Sweden's handling of the pandemic has been heavily criticized by public health officials and infectious disease experts as reckless. The country has among the highest infection and death rates in the world. It also hasn't escaped the deep economic problems resulting from the pandemic. That this approach is even being discussed inside the White House is drawing concern from experts inside and outside the government who note that a herd immunity strategy could lead to the country suffering hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of lost lives. Atlas, who does not have a background in infectious diseases or epidemiology, has expanded his influence inside the White House by advocating policies that appeal to Trump's desire to move past the pandemic and get the economy going, distressing health officials on the White House Coronavirus Task Force and throughout the administration who worry that their advice is being followed less and less. That's the mind of a child. Trump will listen to the person who tells him what he wants to hear, basically. That's how he governs. This guy argued that children don't spread coronavirus. He has expressed skepticism about mask wearing. And this is the guy who's expanding his influence in Trump's White House, because he allows Trump to live in his fairy tale land where the pandemic is over. It's nothing he has to worry about going into November, and he can get reelected and everything will be fairies and rainbows. Talk about facts over feelings, right, Ben Shapiro? Trump wants to feel better, so he surrounds himself with people like this, and he doesn't care about the facts.